Hey everyone, today on the ladder I'm trying out some Boros tokens using Baird Argivian Reinforcements to create a small army of tokens to beat down our opponent and hopefully swerve some meat hook massacres along the way. So today's deck includes a few new cards. Firstly, Baird Argivian Recruiter, which is a 2-drop legendary human soldier that says at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with its power greater than its base power, create a 1/1 soldier token. There are several ways in our deck to increase our creature's power. They include Reckless Stormseeker, our 2/3 werewolf that gives +1/+0 and haste to a creature each turn. Intrepid Adversary that can be used as a mana sink to give our creatures more power. Hopeful Initiate has training to give itself +1 counters. Kumano faces Kakkazan, also allows a creature to enter with a +1 counter. And Wedding Announcement eventually gives all our creatures +1/+1 if it manages to flip. We have 2 copies of Radha Firebrand, which is a 3/1 human warrior for 2, and whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls with power less than Radha's power can't block this turn. So this is great in the face of Sheoldreds, Graveyard Trespassers, or any large solo creatures we encounter. We've got 4 Adelines to help create a large army of tokens, and Adeline works extremely well with Baird's triggered ability. We're playing 4 copies of Resolute Reinforcements, a 2-drop flash 1/1 creature. When it ETBs, you create a 1/1 soldier token. This card is great to surprise our opponents and block creatures attacking us, or set up a large attack the following turn. This card has really surprised me about how well it seems to work in the current meta. Finally, creature-wise, we're playing 2 Tori Davenant Fury Riders. I hope I said that right. This is our top-end creature, which is a 3/3 Vigilant Trampler. When it attacks, other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 to end of turn. Red attacking creatures gain trample until end of turn, and white attacking creatures untap during combat. The last ability here is super strong in this build, basically giving everything vigilance. We're running just 2 lightning strikes for some interaction. We are a low curve aggro build looking to win quickly, so I'm not going too much on the removal here. Land-wise, pretty normal, 23 lands, including Eiganjo and a Sokenzan, which incidentally creates more tokens. Please subscribe if you want to see more decks over the next few months in both standard and other formats. Looking forward to playing more mid-range decks now as some of the new cards' strengths are showing. So let's see how this deck performs today on the ladder, and let's see if we get to swerve those pesky meat hook massacres, which I believe could be the bane of our lives. Alright, on the play, and this looks a pretty decent hand, and it looks like we're in the play queue, not the ranked queue here, so who knows what we'll be facing. Must have misclicked that one. But we do have a turn 1, 2 and 3 subject to us getting a 3rd land, and hopefully that land will be a plains for Adeline. So we can just drop our Hopeful Initiate turn 1 here. And yeah, we drew a plains, which is great. So we can drop our mountain here and play our adversary. This card's great early and late game, but we can't be waiting to play this later to pump our creatures. We need to get in there as opponent plays the Tenacious Underdog, and we draw a mountain. Obviously we're the aggressive deck here, so we'll probably be looking just to attack as fast and as quick as we can. Choice here between any of these cards, they're all pretty good, but knowing that the opponent is on these colours, I think it's best that we get in as much damage as possible as we play our Stormseeker. Give it haste and attack for a bunch. There's 8 damage coming across. Opponent has an underdog on the battlefield, so not the worst card to block, as they will be able to replay that later from the graveyard for some value, and they do block. Interestingly, block the adversary. Maybe the Stormseeker might have been the better option, as this will give haste to anything that we play. An opponent plays Tatsunari Toad Rider, so maybe a more enchantment based black deck, or an Orsov deck here. Who knows what they've got in their hands, but yeah, we can we've got options here as we draw our Dar's Firebrand. So as this attacks, target creature defending player controls with power less than Radha's Firebrand's power can't block this turn, and our Stormseeker is able to make it a 4/1, meaning that the Tatsunari Toad Rider cannot block, so we can just smash the opponent down to 5 life. they would have been better off killing that Stormseeker earlier, as we would have just been attacking with a Hopeful Initiate and a 3-1, and opponent scoops it up. Too much power too quickly. On to the next one. Alright, game number 2 here, and this looks like a decent hand. Back in the ranked queue, which is what I should have done in my first game. Land-wise, a little bit clunky here with a tap land and a Thran Portal. Portal's in here just as an experiment, really, to see if it's going to work. There's a lot of talk out there that the card isn't particularly great, but I've just got 2 in the deck, so we'll see. His opponent dresses us. A card that's been played quite often, I've noticed recently. So maybe a more controlling black deck for our opponent. They take our Kumano. Okay. And we get to play our Portal. And we have 2 Bairds in our hand, but I think I play the Hopeful Initiate here as we can try and get some value as quick as possible. Would have been nice with the to come out with a counter from the Kumano, but it's just the way it is. So with 2 Bairds in our hand, it's not ideal. Obviously it's a legendary creature here. And we definitely want to try and get a couple of creatures on the battlefield in case a Liliana forces us to discard here. So we're waiting to see what the opponent does, and they play a Duress. So they get to take out a non-creature, non-land card from our hand. They take our Lightning Strike, and we get to drop Baird. So just attacking for 1 this turn. Opponent with their 3rd Swamp. Hopefully these creatures can survive till next turn, as the Initiate has training and will get a counter, which means at the end step Baird's ability will activate and we'll get a soldier out of it. And Wedding Announcement's a great draw here. We'll be able to hopefully pump those soldier tokens as quick as possible once it flips, but I mean, we can't really pass up playing Adeline, to be honest. So we do attack with our Initiate and our Baird, puts the counter on the Hopeful Initiate. Opponent blocks the 1-1 with their Beetle, and we get to create a 1-1. So first chance to see Baird work in there. So just a 1-1 on its own, not too great. It does pump our Adeline as well, which is nice. And obviously Adeline now has a power greater than its original power as well. So even if the opponent kills the Initiate, Baird will still trigger with our Adeline. And obviously we can see we have our Wedding Announcement in our hand, which is going to be a great follow-up. His opponent grasps our Adeline and Kumano there. I mean, yeah, we just drop our Wedding Announcement. The value this is going to gain over the next few turns is going to make it really hard for the opponent to stay on top of us here. Now, we are in meat hook range. That's a big worry I've had with this deck all along. It's something we need to be aware of, but not worry about. If opponent blows up the board, they blow up the board. It's being played in a huge amount of decks at the moment, so just one of those things. But they play a Sheoldred instead, giving them some life gain if it gets to their turn, which is probably a better option if they are holding a Meat Hook Massacre for the moment. We can't be too scared here of attacking with our team. We need to make sure that we see out this game as quick as possible before Sheoldred takes over. Opponent blocks our Initiate. It goes down to 4. So our hand's not particularly great here. We can play our Kumano here. And Resolute Reinforcements has Flash. However, we won't get the +1 counter onto the creature if we do flash it in, as the Kumano's 2nd ability triggers on my upkeep on my next turn. But we do draw another Enforcements there through the Wedding Announcements trigger, which is fantastic. Card's been performing really well. something that opponents don't want to play around. They don't realise that they need to play around it. So we do get to surprise our opponents a lot. As opponent does drop the Meat Hook Massacre at last. Okay, so pretty bad for us there. But we are on 14, they're on 8, and we are going to get aggressive again here with our reinforcements. Okay, so we flash those in, create 2/1/1s, lose 2 life through Sheoldred. But we do get to attack now with our reinforcements. Trying to see how we win the game here. Obviously, Sokenzan can create some 1/1s. We definitely need to get some damage through as quick as possible. But again, we have these reinforcements that we can flash in. So, okay, well, I play them in my main phase here just to get a counter on one of them. The wedding announcement turns to wedding festivity. And our reinforcements now is a 3/3, so it's just out of range of another Meat Hook Massacre if the opponent does have one. Obviously, you most of the time want to be flashing in your reinforcements, but yeah, there's a little bit extra value there playing it whilst that second chapter of the saga was still valid. As opponent plays a Shakedown Heavy, Sheoldred triggers, lose 2 more life, and our Kumano now becomes a 2/2. So we have a decent amount of power on board here. If we attack as it is, opponent blocks the 2 3/3s, taking 6 damage from our reinforcements and 2 tokens, and we have Sokenzan in our hand to put through another 2 creatures, which are now 2/2s due to wedding festivity. So if opponent even have cut down here, they're still taking 8 damage. Yep. Nice little win there against Mono Black. On to the next one. Okay, on the draw here with a keepable hand, couple of Resolute Reinforcements, our Firebrand, and a wedding announcement. Opponent with an Epicure here, so we are up against maybe a red deck, an Anvil deck, a Vampire deck, could be anything really. We get to play our Portal here, and I'm going to try and get as aggressive as possible. Play it on red and get down our Kumano. Don't want to keep taking too much damage from the Portal, because I've seen enough people die basically based on these lands. I think it's fine to play a few of them. Just got to be mindful of the auto tapper as well. So we get to play our Firebrand here. It's going to come out with a extra counter on it, which is nice. No haste though, so we're setting ourselves up for future turns. Making it a 4/2 does put it out of cut down range, but certainly not out of Voltage Surge range. Maybe I didn't need to play that, but I guess the Surge was going to come down anyway. As opponent plays Sokenzan Smelter, so at the beginning of combat, they're able to pay 1, turn an artifact into a 3/1 construct. Kumano becomes a 2/2 now, and we drew a Hopeful Initiate, so quite a slow start from our perspective here, for us anyway. Opponent seems pretty aggressive, so maybe they're more of an artifact aggro deck. Certainly seen some of those on the ladder, and we're going to drop our Initiate here and hold back on our reinforcements. So that definitely seems on the beatdown. We're going to have to just try and find a way to get through lots of creatures, small creatures that the opponent has, as they play another Epicure. And yeah, the Smelter manages to turn their blood token into another 3/1 construct. But I mean, we're holding Resolute Reinforcements in our hands, so now we're seeing how good this card is defensively. I'm sure this is the last thing the opponent was expecting to see, as we take out both their 3/1s. Yes, we lose our 2 creatures, but that's a lot of damage we just saved. So are we able to turn this around here? As we drew a Adeline, which is a nice card. It's one of our better cards. Opponent is down to 1 card left. I chose the wedding announcement here. The bodies might help us further with this smelter. It seems to be quite aggressive, and opponents being aggressive themselves as they attack with everyone. Well, we'll snap off those blocks as our life total is pretty low. We go down to 6. An opponent plays a Harvester. Wondering if maybe the Harvester could have been played first and their Sokenzan could have turned the blood token into a 3-1. But we play our Baird that we just drew here and hold open Resolute Reinforcements. Obviously our opponent has the Harvester, meaning that they can just sack it to kill our Baird, but at the moment we're not in the luxurious position of being able to worry about things like that, as opponent plays Meat Hook to destroy everything. Okay. So another deck with Meat Hook puts us down to 4. We get to flash in our reinforcements here that we were holding back. Opponent's still on 17, however they only have 1 card in hand. And yeah, we can just play our Adeline here and attack for 3. Perfect timing that our wedding announcement turns to wedding festivity here. Able to pump our team with a +1/+1 as opponent finds a Harvester. And we just draw another land. Unfortunate there, as pretty much most creatures we could have played would have made some real impact on our opponent's life. We do only have 3 life, so we have to be extremely careful. A Meat Hook Massacre would... Well, if the opponent can play a few creatures themselves and then play a Meat Hook Massacre on their own creatures, that could kill us out of nowhere. So, although we have to be aggressive, we have to be very careful and mindful of the fact we only have 3 life. Obviously, a Shouldered would be terrible as well. So I'm just thinking through my attacks here, and definitely attack with Adeline with the Vigilance. Attacking with the Reinforcements as well. And create a 2/2, which also increases Adeline's strength. So opponent's got 10 damage coming through here as they block a 2/2. Obviously Harvester's death is going to trigger the Meat Hook Massacre, so we're down to 1 life. We have to be very careful. Sorry, we're down to 2 life. We're very careful about tapping our Thran Portal here. This is the kind of situation where you've got to be mindful of the auto tapper as opponent plays Fable. Creates a 2/2. Not enough blockers on board as we attack with a team. Adeline will create a 2/2 itself. And that should be... Yeah, that should be game, barring a removal, which there isn't. And opponent dies. On to game number 4. Okay, on the play here, and this looks like a pretty good hand. Nice little curve, and this is the first time we get to see our Tori Davenant, Fury Rider. Hope I said that right. Just call it Tori from now on. Kumano down, again, Thran Portal on red means we do take a damage to play this. I think 1 or 2 portals in a deck like this is absolutely fine. It's definitely enabling us to play our red spells on turn 1. And the damage we're taking doesn't seem too bad. We get to drop an Initiate here, which gets a +1 counter from Kumano. Opponent played a Mountain, so who knows what they have. It's out of play with fire range. So opponent plays with fire our face instead. So maybe some kind of mono red deck here. And Adversary comes down. No good attacks here for the opponent. Our Initiate with 3 toughness. And we draw another land. So we are flooding slightly. And not the best play for us here, as we are going to be playing our Adversary. And with no real value, just a 3/1. And our Fury Rider will have to wait till next turn. So we'll attack with our team. give the opponent the option to kill the Kumano with their adversary if they want, which they do. Wasn't sure that they were going to block then, so it's fine. I'm actually holding fire here. I just want my adversary to come down with a bit of value at this point. We're always going to be playing our Tori next turn, so the adversary is going to have to wait, and we're going to have to play out for the long game. Opponent plays adversary, another adversary, and doesn't attack. So they're on the defensive here as we draw our Resolute Reinforcements, and we can drop our Fury Rider here. So this is a 3/3 Vigilant Trample. When it attacks, all other attacking creatures we control get +1/+1 to end of turn. Other attacking red creatures gain trample, and white creatures untap during attacks. So really powerful card if we can attack with a small army here. We can though get in with our initiate on this particular turn. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the opponent has some kind of combat trick up their sleeves here, and yeah, just play with fire and a block on the adversary. But again, we're slowly but surely whittling down our opponent's resources, and if they are a mono red sort of aggressive deck, we've been on 16 life on turn 4 is pretty good. Opponent with the Firebrand and a Hammerhand, so the Firebrand Hammerhand combo gives +1/+1 to the Firebrand and forces out Tori Davenant to not block, as it has a lesser power than the Firebrand. So we're definitely going to need to try and go a little bit wide, as if we can't block with the Tori, we can block with other creatures here. So the adversary wouldn't be the best draw, wouldn't be the best play here, as we kind of want to play that next turn when we can pump it twice. I mean, the obvious play here is to play our reinforcements as a defensive creature during the opponent's attack stage. They're not going to see that one coming, but we'll see what they do. And it's a Raiju. Okay, not what we want to be seeing at all. So yeah, opponents getting very aggressive here as Radha attacks, targets our Fury Rider. So we're going to be taking 7 on board, plus the Raiju's extra counter, and 1 damage through its ability to my face. So right now I'm deciding whether to actually block, and if we can win next turn with our enforcements and our adversary. Now if we flash in our enforcements here, we have a small little board, and we can play out our adversary, and we can pump twice. And Tori Davenant's ability with white creatures will untap them during attacks, so we get to smash our opponent down to 1. Not quite lethal, but staring down lethal. We are only on 2, and Raiju's attack is going to ping us in our face for 2 damage. Opponent attacks and forces the adversary to not block, but they put their counter on the Raiju, which means we only take 1, and we have some decent blocks here. We can take out their team completely, and yeah, the adversary can tack through for the final point of damage. So an incredibly close match here against red. All came down to that last turn, and it all came down to Tori being able to untap our attackers. So really like that victory there. Really got to see that card in action. All right, game number 5, and we are on the play with a nice turn 1, 2, and 3 hand again. I love to see the Stormseeker and Adeline in my hands. They're I think my best creatures. And yeah, just the 2 lands for us, so we'll be looking to draw a 3rd land in the next 3 turns. We get to play our Kumano. And opponent with a blue or white land here. So maybe a control-y kind of deck. we shall see. We get to flash in our, just play our Enforcements. Again, not needing to flash it in. We've got the value there from our counter from the Kumano. So against any control decks, cards like Enforcement, Wedding Announcement are fantastic cards. They really put pressure on the opponents. But we do want to try and get our creatures toughen us up a bit here in the... Like that the opponent's just played a Swamp, and we could be looking at a Meat Hook Massacre over the next few turns. But, I mean, our hand's pretty aggressive here. Our play is pretty aggressive, sorry. We've got the Reckless Stormseeker down, Etching of Kumano. A token, the Enforcements, as opponent plays Siphon Insight. That's fine. They take 8 damage. Okay, so opponent looks like they're on Esper, temporary lockdown, not a problem. Pretty decent for the opponent there, as they get to exile 3 of our creatures. We get to play our Stormseeker though, and get to give Adeline haste and attack again. Opponent down to 4 already. Turn 3. 4th land for our opponent, and Sorin. And Sorin is going to create a 2/3 lifelink vampire. So we have some options here. Nothing particularly great. As we go to attacks, I mean, that is a definite misplay. We should 100% played our Intrepid Adversary there and given it haste with our Stormseeker, but opponent scooped it up anyway. We'll take that win, and little misplay there, but on to the next one anyway. Game number 6 on the draw. So we've won 5 on the spin here, which is pretty nice. Our hand, I mean, it could do better, but it could be a lot worse. Opponent has a strong start with their Delver of Secrets. So we don't have a turn 1 play here, unfortunately. They get to look at the top card of their library. It's an Impulse. So that flips the Delver into Insectile Aberration. And they play another Delver. Alright, so pretty aggressive here from our opponent. So we just find a Mountain. And yeah, I guess we just attempt to destroy this before they get another draw step to find any counter spells. Opponent has Spell Pierce anyway. Okay, so I guess they would have had that whatever happened, but they find a Mate Disappear on top, which is incredibly annoying as it is a counter spell for 2. So they could have held that open, and we wouldn't have been able to play a card next turn, but they choose to play their Impulse instead, which looks at the top 4 cards of the library, puts 1 in their hand and the rest at the bottom. Opponent is definitely in the driving seat here. We've been a little bit controlled here. Maybe regrettably keeping this opening hand. We weren't able to put too much pressure on our opponent, and that Delver flipping early was a real problem. So we get to play out our adversary here, playing it out mainly as a lifelinker. Hopefully we get a chance to attack with it next turn just to try and save ourselves. That counter spell in the opponent's hand is annoying, especially as all of our creatures cost 3, and the counter spell will make sure that we need to pay 2. So we do have an attack here for 5 on board, and thinking whether I really need to force them to play that counter spell. We do have the 2 Wedding Announcements, so this is a card we can play. If they want to counter it, so be it. We're going to have to try and win on future turns. We can definitely attack here for 5. Gain 3 life back, which is great. Wonder what the opponent does here. Okay, well, they attack us down to 2. So chances of us winning are pretty low as they play a Reservoir Kraken. Annoying. I'm not really sure if there's a way out here. Our super aggressive aggro strategy here is not working too well in this matchup, it seems. These 2 Delvers are doing what they do good and do best than just smacking us in the air. So just making sure that there's nothing I can do here to win the game. So we can gain 5 life back. And yeah, just play out our creatures. Give the opponent a chance to win the game themselves. I guess we're just hoping that they don't attack with both 3/2s. So we do go back up to 5 life. They are down to 8. I mean, I don't think we were a million miles off winning this game in the end. We could have kept the Kraken tapped down. But these Delvers have just taken over. And good game, opponent. Yep, they beat us from the off there. On to the next one. Alright, game number 7. And our opponent is on the play. So, ham-wise, yep, the tap land isn't going to be too good for us here if we draw a 1-drop out and we draw a 1-drop, which is annoying. Alright, so we'll get down our Sundown Pass. Does make our turn 2 slightly awkward. So ideally we would draw a 1-drop on our next turn, which we don't. Is Adeline. Alright, opponent on the aggressive sort of red deck. So we'll drop our Baird here, just to sort of hold fire. We really need three mana for this deck to sort of function. And with 3 mana we can play most of our cards. So let's draw hopefully a white mana next turn, so we can drop Adeline. The opponent plays Stormseeker. So they're definitely pretty aggressive here. Only attacking though with the Stormseeker, interesting. We go down to 13 and we draw an announcement, so an awful draw. Okay, so we need some kind of help here, so drop in the adversary, maybe gain some life back if they want to attack. Yeah, there's play with fire. I mean, what can we do? They are sacking their blood tokens to try and find something else, and they discard their squee, and there's Kumano. Really need another land drop here. Opponent attacks with everyone. So if we block here, we go down to 8. I don't really know if we can win. If we take the damage, we go down to 6, but we do have a 2/2 on board. Maybe we can create some soldiers next turn if we play our Stormseeker. So if we can get Stormseeker out next turn, put a counter on it, or make it +1/+0 until end of turn, then we can create a soldier token and have 3 blockers, but no, we draw another Baird. No attacks. So there was a small window there where we could have got back into the game as opponent plays their Thundering Raiju. Yeah, so 2 mana here really hamstrung us. As opponent attacks with the team, we'll block where we can. So we're technically on 8 life, taking 8 damage there. Going to 2. And Stormseeker. So never drew the 3rd land. We're never going to win that way. And that was just a better draw from our opponent and a pretty terrible draw for us. But that is Magic, and that happens. And there's been plenty of times where it's the other way around. So we'll let the opponent play out their hand here and attack with the team. And finally we may die. There we go. Didn't even need to get the damage through. So all in all, we went 5-2. The 2 losses were the last 2 games, one being a bit of a mana screw in that last one. The deck seems pretty good. We can get our damage through pretty quickly. The land situation needs looking at, as there's too many times we didn't have untapped mana on turn 1. But each of the new cards performed well when they're needed. Tori did really well when we were able to untap our attackers, and Baird, in some of my early games, was able to create some soldiers there. So it is a little bit weak to removal, But apart from the land, this deck only uses 2 rares from Dominaria, and most of the cards, or the other cards, are just from previous sets, so maybe they're lying around. So this deck may be more approachable than some of the other aggro decks at the moment, using a lot more of the Dominaria cards. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you again soon.